Hi everyone! When we hear the phrase gypsy guitar, for most of us it conjures up this kinda blurry, almost fairy tale image. You got your campfire, the moon, fortune-telling with cards, those big flowing skirts, the open road, the whole stray dogs vibe. But if you kinda peel back those pretty surface-level stereotypes and really try to dig into it, what opens up in front of you is something genuinely massive. I'm talking about a huge foundational layer of European musical culture. The influence it's had on so many genres. You could arguably compare it to the way the blues just completely shaped the entire landscape of American music in the 20th century. Look, the Roma people scattered all across the continent. They were never this one single monolithic thing. In the Balkans, you have this whole other tradition. Brass instrument dominated over there, with insane virtuosity on the trumpet. The Romanian lautari, that whole different universe, with the violin taking center stage. But if we zoom in especially on the guitar, this crazy, versatile, endlessly adaptable instrument, what comes into focus are three massive traditions, three schools, three totally different approaches to make it still strings speak the language on the human soul. These aren't just different styles, man. There are different worlds, different ways to hearing time, experiencing space, and channeling emotion. A lot of young musicians just starting out, they're convinced that gypsy guitar is just one thing. Go to Spain, they'll tell you guitarra gitana is flamenco. Pop over to France and they'll swear it's Manouche jazz, no question. And in Russia, it's our 7th string, of course. But that's a deep misconception, and it's one I think we should clear up today. Because flamenco, manouche, the Russia 7th string, each one with its own totally unique personality, is just a branch on this massive tree, just individual voices in the giant chorus of Roma music. So that's the deal for today. I want to take you on a little trip. Sure, but hopefully a cool one. We're gonna roll from the sun-baked soul of Andalusia to the smoky bohemian clubs of the 1930s Paris, and from there all the way to this mysterious, deeply melancholic 19th century Russia. We're gonna see how the exact same instrument, planted in the totally different soil, gave us three completely distinct, equally incredible fruits. Alright, let's kick things off with what's probably the most famous one, Spanish flamenco. And I want to start with a little paradox that might just flip your whole perspective on this music. Here's the thing, a lot of people think of flamenco as this ancient, time-honored art form, right? Roots going back centuries, but the guitar actually became its main central instrument pretty late in the game. Only really toward the end of the 19th century. That's when the Gitanos, Calais, who had already absorbed Arab scales, Jewish melodies, and Andalusian folk music, finally found the instrument that could really back up the singing and dancing the way it needed. And eventually, it grew into this incredibly sophisticated solo art form. First and foremost, it's the rhythm, that famous compás. This isn't just a time signature like 4/4 or 6/8. It's a complex pattern of accents. It's the living, breathing pulse that gives birth to the dance, the song, the guitar improvisation, all of it. But just as important is the technique. You've got the rasgueado, the fanning strumming motion that doesn't just hit a chord, it creates this whole rhythmic texture. Or the golpe, where you tap the guitar body with your fingernails, adding the almost percussive layer to the melodic instrument, injecting even more of that raw flamenco energy. And talking about flamenco, you absolutely cannot leave out the name that just shot across the sky like a meteor and completely changed the game. I'm talking, of course, about Paco de Lucía. Now, quick sidebar. Paco wasn't Roma by blood, but this guy with his insane technique, his harmonic fearlessness, his endless hunger of experiment, he took the flamenco guitar out of those small, intimate rooms and put it on the biggest concert stages around the globe. He turned it from a folk artifact into a high art phenomenon. Yeah, sure, there were giants before him, Ramon Mantoes, Sabicas, Nino Ricardo, but Paco was the real revolutionary. He gave flamenco music this nuclear boost, this massive push forward. But for all the virtuosity and innovation, the roots of this music still dig deep into that Roma concept of duende. You know, that state of trance, of deep pain and ecstasy. Without that, flamenco risks being just a bunch of technically perfect but emotionally empty runs. Okay, now let's make a sharp turn, stylistically and geographically. Let's jump from that hot, dusty Andalusia to the smoky, bohemian vibe of 1930s Paris. Right there, at the crossroads of the Roma tradition, American jazz, and that certain French musical elegance, something brand new was born. Today, the whole world knows it as Gypsy Jazz, and right at the heart of it all is a guy whose own story sounds like an unbelievable belt about the sheer force of the human spirit. His name, of course, Django Reinhardt. Picture this, 1928. A fire tears through his Roma caravan. He suffers horrific burns. The doctors basically tell him his music career is over because 2 fingers on his left hand are left paralyzed. They'd never fly up and down the fretboard again, right? But Django, man, instead of throwing in the towel, he finds this genius, almost impossible solution. He develops this completely unique system that lets him play the most complex, lightning-fast melodic lines using basically just those 2 working fingers. The other 2, they're just there to hold down chords. And the sound that came out of that, it wasn't just virtuosic. It sounded radically new, like nothing anyone had ever heard before. One of the key ingredients in this style is the rhythm guitar part, a technique called la pompe. It's this drumming, swinging, pumping rhythm that creates a kind of sonic cushion for the solo instrument to just float on top of. And we gotta shout out the gear too. Those legendary Selmer guitars with their narrow necks that punchy, articulate tone and those signature D-shaped or round sound holes. They became as much as part of the sound and image of gypsy jazz as Django himself. Today, this style, born in the Paris suburbs from a Roma genius, is played by thousands of musicians worldwide, from Tokyo to Buenos Aires. But the gold standard, the benchmark, is still the sound of the Quintet du Haut Club de France. That sound of Django's guitar having a conversation with Stéphane Grappelli's violin, weaving that magic you just can't mistake for anything else. And finally, we get to the part of our trip that I'm willing to bet is gonna be a revelation for a lot of you. See, in Russia, this big, mysterious, deeply melancholic country, a totally unique gypsy guitar tradition took root. For most of the outside world, it's still terra incognita, but for Russian culture, it's something deeply familiar, almost intimate. And at the center of this tradition is an instrument that the West often sees of this exotic curiosity, the 7-string guitar. Historically, the Russian 7th string is linked first and foremost to a guitarist named Andrei Sychra. Back in the early 19th century, he systematized and popularized this open G major tuning. This tuning was a game changer. It let you grab this rich, full-body chord with basically one finger. But more importantly, it let you play an independent singing bass line. It turned the guitar from just the accompaniment tool into a whole orchestra in one instrument. Sychra, who originally was a harpist, brought in the technique from the harp, especially these unique arpeggiated passages. When you hear those on a 7th string, man, you just can't mistake it for anything else. The Roma in Russia, with their incredible ears and natural melodic sense, they grabbed onto this instrument and just ran with it, pushing the technique to a level of virtuosity that still blows your mind. And here's something interesting. There were, and still are, two main ways to tune it. You've got the classic Russian major tuning, bright, festive, celebratory. Tons of classical pieces were written in it. And then you've got the gypsy version, the minor tuning. You drop that B string to B flat and suddenly you're in G minor. That tuning, man, that's where that signature sound comes from. That soulful, melancholic, deeply emotional sound we associate with the Russian gypsy romance. And we absolutely have to tip our hats to the master, the genius of Russian guitar, Sergei Orekhov. His technique was absolutely flawless, incredibly clean, but man, that Russian singing quality in his playing, it's something else. You could easily argue that his impact on the Russian 7th string is just as massive as Paco de Lucia's was on flamenco. And when it comes to the gypsy 7th string tradition specifically, you gotta talk about the Kolpakov dynasty. Alexander Kolpakov, the grandmaster of gypsy songs, and of course Vadim Kolpakov. The guy plays with this absolute improvisational freedom. perfect example of both the deep roots of this music and how the art of seventh string is still evolving. It's happening right now in real time. So now that we've traced this whole arc from Andalusia to Paris, from Paris to Russia, let's try to zoom out and look at the big picture. At first glance, you might think these are three totally separate worlds that never touch. Spanish flamenco, it's all about rhythm and dance. French gypsy jazz, swing and improvisation. The Russian seven-string school, it's song and melodic depth. We're the common ground, right? But that's exactly where it gets interesting, right at the intersection of their differences. So take the old Russian romance Dark Eyes, Очи черные. This melody has become the universal anthem. You hear it everywhere. It sounds one way on the Russian seventh string. Then it swings like crazy in a gypsy jazz setting. And check it out in flamenco, in a bulerías compás, when a maestro like Paco Cepero gets a hold of it. Same melody, three different languages, but the heart of it, that stays the same. But it gets even deeper than that, man. It goes right down into the root system. Listen closely to the Spanish Farruca, one of the most dramatic, hard-hitting styles of flamenco. Its rhythmic pattern, its melodic shape, it has this uncanny resemblance to this Russian song. This isn't just some random chords progression coincidence. It's practically the same musical form, just being played in two different zip chords. Check it out. Here's the Farruca. And here's the same energy of Russian gypsy dance. Or get this. Listen to the vocal line from a Farruca Baila Malena. It's a classic.
Déjame, Malena, que te cuide y que te quiera. Soy el hombre que te espera, que te dará su corazón. Báilame, Malena, tira el viento toda tu pena y echa al suelo la cadena y olvida ya tu sin razón.
Melodically, it's almost a dead ringer for the old Russian Roma songs Why Did We Fall in Love? Зачем было влюбляться? Listen. thousands of miles apart, different languages, different traditions, but the melody, that super fine thread, is the same. What does that tell you? It tells you that despite all the technical differences, the geography, the cultural soft layers on top, somewhere down deep on a subconscious gut level, there's this thing that holds together. You could call it the gypsy nerve, call it a cultural DNA, call it genetic memory of the music. But it's this inner chord that lets a musician in Paris or Seville or Moscow tap into the exact same pain, the same joy, the same sense of freedom. The technique follows the function, but the living, breathing melody that's carried in the blood. And as long as that truth is alive, the music lives, no matter what kind of clothes it's wearing. So friends, I honestly love to know what you think. Which of these three styles speaks to you the loudest? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one and I love answering questions. For me, music is always a conversation, not a lecture. And if you want to dive even deeper into the technique, the history, the little details that makes each of these styles so unique, then hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Play with soul, listen to the roots, and always remember, real music starts right where the words run out. See you.